The following clip is an actual Microsoft advertisement from 2006. Most of you will recognize the product.
Every so often you experience something so new, so delightfully unexpected, that there's only one word for it. Wow. Introducing Windows Vista.
Most people in the tech industry have at least heard enough about the Windows Vista operating system to know that despite its advertised wow factor, it was almost universally hated. In fact, it was one of Microsoft's most public failures. But what caused this disastrous crash and burn? While people have come up with many potential causes, the easiest one can be described using the ITIL framework. Microsoft simply did not successfully execute a proper IT service transition. IT service transition is all about making sure that services required by businesses and end users successfully transition into operational use. It is more than just executing a successful rollout. Successful service transition involves accounting for extreme circumstances, planning for failure, organizing knowledge, understanding how to determine success, and making plans for change. There are 5 key activities that should be implemented as part of IT service transition. Let's take a look at each one to understand more about the story of Windows Vista and how it could have been averted.
Let's start by walking through how Microsoft created Vista. After many years of legacy system of Windows XP, they gathered all their teams together and began planning a new operating system. They spent a long time planning. They spent a long time forecasting. They predicted a lot of success. Finally, they set up the entire configuration for the new operating system. They believed that this operating system would become the main pillar of Microsoft's business kingdom. And thus, Vista was born. So was it a huge success? No! People hate it! So they went to Apple instead. Configuration management is the process of documenting all aspects of your service configuration, such as hardware, software, policies, documentation, employees, and suppliers in a CMS that can be used to find information rapidly. There are 3 primary parts of configuration management, all of which Microsoft could have improved at with Vista. First, companies should have a robust way of conducting configuration identification. This is the process of identifying all aspects of the service configuration that should be documented. Not doing this carefully could make it so that you are unable to respond quickly to a problem like Vista had. Second, companies should implement configuration control that stop unauthorized people from making changes to the CMS. This helps ensure that the CMS is always accurate. Finally, companies should regularly audit their CMS to ensure that it is consistently up to date. In the case of Microsoft, while they had a lot of their configuration mapped out, it was not mapped out clearly enough to rapidly respond to major issues. Working on improving configuration management would have been highly useful.
The second principle of good IT service transition is service testing and validation. As the name would imply, this crucial principle is all about testing IT services to make sure they work. But how exactly do we make sure that IT services work? It turns out there is a lot more to this question than meets the eye. At first glance, testing may bring to mind images of debugging code for errors. While this is certainly part of any kind of IT-related testing, it doesn't capture the essence of the principle, and it certainly doesn't help us learn more about the challenges that faced Microsoft when Vista was launched. The key here is that a service isn't successful unless it meets the need established for it by the consumers as part of the service design phase. In the case of Windows Vista, the common complaint by the end users was that Vista was too slow compared to the much more popular XP. While Vista was not necessarily built poorly, its software bloat and advanced changes failed to meet the demands of its general body of users who needed the service, which was speed and efficiency. Because of this, the product failed spectacularly. So how should one defend against this? It begins by making a test plan. How exactly should you organize testing in order to meet standards agreed upon by you and your customers or users? Once you have a test plan, you need to establish a testing environment where tests can be safely conducted. Then you start testing as tests come back. Issues and errors are identified and rectified. Finally, everything is compared against the baseline that was established in the test plan. Doing this will ensure your service meets the needs established for it.
The third principle of good IT service transition is release and deployment. This principle is probably the most common one people think of when considering transitioning IT services from design to operation. Successfully rolling out newer update services from development into production is a major challenge for any IT organization, and Microsoft is no exception. When Vista was released to the general public, the deployment process was not smooth. Many software and hardware products that were widespread on Windows XP computers failed to run when Vista was brought in, meaning that IT organizations that were attempting to deploy the new operating system found that to do so would cause major problems. Because of these challenging deployment issues, many people simply refused to make the upgrade. So what could have made the process better? Let's look at some basic principles. 1. Plan release and deployment carefully. Don't build things and put them into production quickly, or you will likely face serious failures. Consider risk, stakeholders, and ownership chains when doing your planning. 2. Build a release package. 3. Test the release package. Pilot tests are a great way to do this. Other IT teams hold release dress rehearsals. 4. Deploy. Make sure you continuously monitor this process. Also, notify stakeholders when the deployment goes live and when it is fully operational. And 5. Review the deployment and learn from it. Had the deployment of Vista gone more smoothly, more people would have stuck with the operating system. Clearly, moving IT services into production is essential to delivering good IT service.
The fourth key principle of good IT service transition is something called knowledge management. Let's take a look at what this entails and how this fits into the story of Windows Vista. We will illustrate knowledge management with an example. Let's say that the following individual represents Bob, a programmer for Microsoft working on operating system technology like Windows Vista. As Bob programs the operating system, he may decide that old versions of Windows operating system are not secure enough for the new Vista version, so he implements some new logic to increase security. Unfortunately for Bob, Mary, who works with vendors who write drivers and other software for operating systems, knows that certain critical drivers are not prepared to handle a serious security update. If Mary's knowledge cannot somehow get to Bob, then Bob is likely to take an action that will cause serious issues later on. This very thing happened with Vista in the real world. Of course, knowledge management is far bigger than just simply IT tech forms. Because knowledge takes many forms and is required by so many people, both in IT and outside of it. Figuring out how to make as much knowledge available as possible is important. So how should we go about doing this? Let's take a look at some basic principles. Everything starts with data. Capturing as much data as possible is critical to build an effective knowledge management system. Once you have begun capturing data, you need to give that data context, which makes it turn into information. Information that is analyzed becomes knowledge, and knowledge that is applied becomes wisdom. In order to facilitate a rapid progression through this process, the following are recommended. First, develop a knowledge management strategy. What data should we capture that everyone should have access to? Second, determine appropriate knowledge transfer. How should knowledge communicate between individuals and across departments? Third, determine an information management plan. Who should have access to what information? Finally, build a service knowledge management system to carry out the information management plan. Doing this ensures that the right people have access to the right knowledge at the right time.
The final key principle of IT service transition is known as change management. The mission of IT change management is to implement changes in the most efficient manner while minimizing the negative impact on customers when changes are implemented. Let's take a look at how this worked with the rollout of Windows Vista. One of the biggest problems with the Windows Vista rollout was the existing operating system, Windows XP. People loved Windows XP. It was quick and capable, but also stable and industrially resilient. Forcing a massive change upon the general public with the new Windows Vista was going to require careful planning and execution to ensure people felt like they were getting the same great experience. Unfortunately, this was not done well. People hated Windows Vista and rejected it virtually unilaterally. Even Apple created derisive commercials about it. In other words, Microsoft handled the change management for its operating system service abysmally. Good change management includes the following best practices. Changes should be requested and evaluated. Changes should not be made to things that are going well, and as such, no change should be permitted unless a general agreement is made that the change is good. A process and line of authority should be established to determine who can authorize changes to be made. Create a change plan, then test it. Continue this process until you are sure the change will be smooth for the end users. Require change proposals. These differ from change requests in that proposals seek to obtain permission to implement a change plan that has been tested. Implement and review. Don't forget to review whether the change went as planned. Change management ensures that as tweaks are made to a service, people are insulated from pain and inconvenience. It is one of the most important aspects of transitioning services successfully into production.
So what happened to Microsoft? Obviously, they learned from their mistakes. 3 years after Vista's release, Windows 7 was released, which underwent a far more successful transition to the general public. Today, Microsoft still retains wide usage in operating system market and continues to make fairly successful service release. Clearly, much can be learned from challenges in the past. In any IT organization, the service provided to the end users, whether those services are application or data storage, are often essential for people to operate in their job effectively. Ensuring that service transitions smoothly from the design phase to the operation phase is a foundational pillar of ITIL and a crucial element of ensuring your IT organization successfully achieves its mission.